Hi guys, good evening and welcome back once again to the EdWord. I'm your host Eddie, and in tonight's video I'll be discussing what I thought of the latest and interesting Marvel Sony film. And I gotta say, I'm a little surprised that it's not getting better reviews, because you think their follow-up to Spider-Man No Way Home would be somewhat good, but man, it's just getting trashed. I personally liked it, but I'm not sure how much my voice carries here. So welcome to my spoiler-filled film review for the latest Sony Marvel film, Morbius, which came out in theaters starting tonight, officially tomorrow, but there were advanced screenings starting tonight. Just came from mine, and I liked it a lot, and I'll explain why in just a few minutes. But before I get into all of that, of course, like I just said, this is a spoiler-filled review, so if you haven't seen Morbius, do not keep watching or listening to this video. If you intend to watch it this weekend at some point, don't keep watching or listening to this, because I am going to be discussing spoilers, some kind of minor, some pretty big. So you have been warned. That being said, let's dive right back into it. I could certainly see why people are being pretty harsh on this movie. I didn't think it was unwatchable. I found it to be quite entertaining and pretty exciting, and it kept my interest from beginning to end. I could tell they had cut, for whatever reason, quite a few scenes that made the trailers so good, but there were still several shots and scenes that were in several of the trailers that did indeed stick it or make it in the movie. And I was always under the impression that Michael Keaton's role as Vulture / Adrian Toomes was going to be a minimal one, so I wasn't too surprised he only appeared in the post-credit scenes. I'm not sure if people were expecting more from him or whatnot. Honestly, the post-credit scenes might have been the best part of this movie, which is kind of saying a lot. But what intrigued me about this movie was mainly the storyline of a guy trying to cure himself and cure the world of a disease that he himself has, and even though he has good intentions, ends up turning himself into a ravenous monster. And in fact, if it weren't for the Spider-Man connections and other Marvel references, you could have just made this a movie about a scientist with a blood disease trying to cure his own disease, help himself, help others, and turns himself into a ravenous vampire. You could have easily made it a sci-fi horror film just like that. But this was a comic book, based, inspired movie about the character Morbius, and this is what we got. So I remember a friend of mine a few days ago told me that he didn't have a whole lot of faith in this film, mostly from the overwhelming negative reviews. And he also said, because he's a comic book guy, how Morbius would be a tough character to pull off a solo movie for. And after watching this, I would kind of agree with him, because there's some stuff that worked, some stuff that didn't. I was just sorry that we were deprived of what I assume were much bigger roles for the likes of Tyrese Gibson, one of the FBI agents, and Jared Harris, who is the father figure to both Morbius and his friend turned enemy Milo. I did like how the trailers were pretty elusive in letting us know as to who the real villain of the story would be. Morbius obviously faced a lot of scrutiny for killing those mercenaries on the ship, but Milo did most of the killing of the more innocent people, because he injected himself as well. So I wasn't too surprised that he was the villain of this story, even though Morbius himself was being sought after and hunted by the authorities and whatnot, while dealing with Milo as well. For a while there, I thought, oh, they did something that they really haven't done since Amazing Spider-Man 2. They killed a superhero or anti-superhero's love interest. But then we see her eyes open right before that very sudden and abrupt ending, which was probably the worst part of the movie for me, because I feel like we could have had at least one more scene to bring everything full circle, one more final confrontation with the two FBI agents. But instead, it just focused on him shooting out of the ground, surrounded by bats, and just flying off into the night. I mean, at least the closing shot was of his vampire eyes, so that was kind of cool. But getting back to the storyline, the thing that intrigued me about this movie, long before its MCU connections, was that I could relate to the character in a sense that he feels like there's something wrong with him, and he wants to cure himself of it and thus help himself and help people like him. And I kind of relate to that. I don't have an incurable disease, thankfully, but I do have a developmental disability, which I wish I could cure, and unfortunately I can't. But it just would make my life a lot easier, and I'm sure it would make a lot of other people's lives easier too who have developmental disabilities. So I could kind of relate to, Morbius's motivations in this movie, but I was also here to see a guy turn into a ravenous vampire, display pretty cool powers, have a scary monster face, and kill a lot of people. And that's pretty much what I got. And then we also got some pretty exciting post-credit scenes. I liked how they revealed that Toomes was accidentally sent to Morbius's universe, and because for some reason he did not stay in the MCU where he belongs. But now he's in Morbius's universe, and they released him from jail because, sure enough, nobody knows who he is, and quickly put himself together a new Vulture suit and rendezvoused with the man himself, Morbius, in the desert to talk about the plans for the future, which has got to be a tease to the Sinister Six. They didn't flat out say the Sinister Six, but clearly we've got some villains in the mix here who are meeting each other for the first time and seem to be blaming their problems on Spider-Man. Well, Morbius isn't, but Vulture was, obviously. So that was pretty cool and exciting. In fact, Vulture's appearance, well, before he's in his Vulture costume, when he first appears in his cell during the rift in space, that probably got the loudest reaction from the crowd. And it wasn't a huge full house, but it was an adequately, decently sized full house. That scene and the other scene got people pretty pumped, right before the credits resumed. So overall, it was an entertaining film. I don't think it was near as unwatchable or as garbagey as people are making it sound to be. I think people are making it sound far, far worse than it truly is. But hey, that's just me. You know what? I'm just happy that I liked it. I'm glad that I was entertained by it. I found it exciting and satisfying, and I didn't feel like it was a waste of an evening or a waste of my time. I walked out feeling fairly satisfied and content with it. I'm sorry other people didn't feel that way, but hey, there's other movies to look forward to. So, what did you guys think of Morbius? Did you like it, love it, hate it? Let me know what you think down below in the comments section. Thank you so much for watching. Have an awesome rest of your night. Morbius is now playing in theaters. Have a good one, everyone. Of course, until next time, may the Force be with you.